video presentation is brought to you by the High School Football Officials Association, the HSFO, helping good officials get better. Sponsored by the Reading Study Guide to NFHS Football Rules. The Reading Study Guide. If you're through learning, you're through. Let's jump right into these rule changes for the 2013 season. First thing I want to talk about, these helmet caps. These are add-on devices that the manufacturer of the caps actually says will reduce by 30% the risk of head injury. There's no medical evidence that we've seen so far that supports the manufacturer of these claims about the reduction of head injury. So this is just illegal equipment because we've altered the helmet when we place these on. Some of the concerns that the medical experts are saying is this adds additional weight to the helmet, so it makes the head heavier when you're moving back and forth. Also, because they have these ridges on them and these packs of foam, when there's contact with another helmet that might glance off and keep going, these pads actually reduce the risk of glance-off blows. They kind of absorb the impact. So the verdict's still out on this, but the manufacturer of the helmets says if you add these caps to the helmets, it voids the warranty. It doesn't meet National Federation of High School rules right now because it's illegally added equipment. So simply put, these are illegal. Don't allow them to be used during games that we're officiating. Let's talk for a minute about gloves. 1-5-2B. The gloves have to meet these NOC-SAE test standards at the time. They have to have the National Federation of High School's logo or this logo that says they meet this standard on them. Either that or they have to be made of just an unaltered plain cloth. Those two are legal. All other gloves are illegal. If you'd like to read more on this subject, here's a reference to the Reading Study Guide where you can read more information on the gloves. Towels, 1.5.3A5A. We've talked about towels for years. I mean, they've been a constant problem. The committee's just gone through and clarified, made the rule a little bit simple. They just all have to be a solid color. They can't be the same color as a penalty flag or the ball. No more than one manufacturer's logo. It can't be more than 2¼ square inches in any dimension. Every player can wear a towel now, but if they wear a towel, they've got to be the exact same solid color as all their teammates. Here's an example in A that's legal. B, these towels, they don't all match. They are illegal. Here's another Reading Study Guide. If you'd like to read more on towels, page references and chapter numbers here. Coaches' field equipment. We've made a significant amount of rule changes here to 1.6. These communication devices can be used by coaches and non-players. Look in A, perfectly legal. He's got some kind of a tablet out and he's drawing plays on it or whatever. That's perfectly okay for him to do on the sideline. Now, it'd be illegal for him to stand out there and to show this to players who are out in the middle of the field. Look at the insert in play pick there, C. You can see the players are out in the middle of the field and the coach is holding this iPad or tablet computer up in B. That's illegal because they're out in the middle of the field. Now in A, this diagram, the coach is outside the 9-yard marks. We've got a timeout. He's out on the field there and he's showing the players what's on his tablet computer. Perfectly legal, outside the 9-yard marks in a conference. And it's also legal for a conference to occur out in the middle of the field and the coach just to be looking at this tablet. Only he can look at it, though, if they're out in the middle of the field. C and C, where he's showing this to the players out in the middle of the field, that's illegal. Go back to A. If he'd have this conference on the sideline, perfectly legal, no problem. You can read more on communication devices with the coaches by searching Chapter 12 of the Reading Study Guide, page 184. We've made some changes to the catching rule 2.4.1. This talks about airborne receiver contacted, forward progress, stopped in bounds. The catch is simply the act of a player establishing possession of a live ball, which is in flight. And first, he's got to come down to the ground in bounds, and he's got to maintain possession of the ball. If he has his forward progress stopped, like an opponent picks him up and carries him out of bounds or pushes him backwards in bounds, these are still catches even though the player doesn't come down in bounds because his forward progress has been stopped. Judgment call. What's forward progress? You have to talk about this in your pregame, but if he catches the ball in flight and is picked up by his opponent and he drives him back 2 or 3 yards out of bounds, it's simply a completed pass, forward progress. If he doesn't make the line to gain, we want the sideline official to wind the clock. Even though these players end up out of bounds, this symbol of winding the clock if we don't make the line to gain indicates that we're ruling this a catch. We're ruling forward progress. So the game clock's going to continue to wind. Now, if he does make the line to gain, We want one signal: stop the clock. That would indicate the line to gain has been made. Then we want to communicate with the referee that we're going to wind the game clock when the ball gets spotted and the chains are moved. Communicate on the sidelines with on these plays. Folks, let the coaches know what we're doing with the game clock. We've ruled forward progress. We're going to wind the clock when we get the ball ready for play. It's important that we communicate that to the coaches. These are unusual plays, and late in the game or when the time is critical, we need to be communicating on the sideline. More on 2.4.1, airborne receiver contacted. This just shows him getting bumped out of bounds. This is an incomplete pass. The defender or his opponent didn't grab him and carry him. He just knocked him out of bounds, but the player here, number 2, did not land with anything in bounds. So this is an incomplete pass. More references on incomplete pass here in the Reading Study Guide. Check those out. Got some plays here on the helmets coming off 3.5.10D. Lots of rule changes with this. We want to talk about them. Runner has forward progress stopped, and then in the continuing action, his helmet comes off. This is an official's timeout. The player's got to leave the game for one down if the helmet comes completely off. Critical verbiage, completely off. And we're not attributing this to a foul by his opponent. If he gets tackled by the face mask and his opponent rips it off, obviously the helmet's coming completely off. That's an action where we'd have a 15-yard penalty on the opponent and the player can remain in the game. There is no rule requiring him to come out because we're attributing this act to his opponent. This is new 9.6.4G. If the player whose helmet comes completely off during a down continues to participate beyond that immediate action which he was engaged in when his helmet comes off, it's a foul for illegal participation. See in play pick P number 52, his helmet's coming off, he has time to stop right there. If he continues down the field and makes a play on this ball carrier, that would be a foul for illegal participation. Here's a reference for you in the Reading Study Guide. Lots of great information on this rule 9.6.4G. Check it out in your Reading Study Guide. Also a new rule 9.4.3. This is illegal personal contact. It's a personal foul if a player or non-player initiates contact with an opponent whose helmet has come off completely. Again, this is not continuing action. This is a subsequent act when the helmet comes off and a player or non-player engages that player whose helmet's off. This is a personal foul. All right, we're going to have a good discussion with this play because we're going to get into some discussion on continuing action. You see here the player's helmet comes off, bam, bam. Then there's a couple more hits and a twist, and this player falls down. I believe this video is from Texas, but loses a couple of teeth here in the lineman. But the question's going to be, is this continuing action? You see there's a couple of different butt rams after the helmet comes off. In one of the plays, in one of the segments here, the helmet's actually starting to come off, and there's another hit, but it's not completely off. And then we'll watch this on replay. And if you look right here, you'll see that the defender's got a clear view at the offensive player without his helmet on right here. It's completely off of his lid, and he comes back and makes a second bam right in the mouth. Guys, this is exactly what we're talking about with a personal foul. This is a player whose helmet is completely off, the continuing action is over, and then there's a subsequent act. Although the subsequent act is a repeat of the continuing action. That's a little bit complicated when you just talk about it. But when you look at it here, you see, bam, here is the ram. That ram right there, that action is continuing action. And then I'll freeze this here for you. You see this stop. There is clearly a stop of action right here. And the player has the opportunity to see his opponent without a helmet on. Now, it's incumbent upon him, if there's any question about whether his helmet's on or off, it's incumbent upon him not to hit him again. But he does hit him again. Guys, this is a 15-yard penalty. This is a personal foul, and I want to make sure we're focused on these. We understand players with helmet coming off. We understand the difference between subsequent action and a second act, even if the second act is a repeat of the subsequent action. Great play to look at. This play, if you don't mind looking at an NCAA video, it's just because we got a video here. This is going to go in our category of illegal participation. Look at the receiver. Skip the fact whether this is complete or incomplete pass. Don't even think about that. Let's just talk about this player once he gets up off the ground and he's missing his helmet. His helmet's come completely off, and what is he doing? He is that's not continuing action. He is participating in this down. Under the new rule, this is going to be an illegal participation. Comes up with his helmet completely off. Get another look at it here. This is we're talking in this video about complete or incomplete, but we want to look at this video as an illegal participation video, because let's just say this is a legitimate fumble, and now he's going to come up without a helmet on and chase the ball carrier down and be in on the tackle. Under our new rule, this would be illegal participation. Give you one more look at illegal participation. This one's going to involve a lineman right here at the screen where the red circle is. He loses his helmet there. No foul by the defense. It just comes off, and he runs out here and makes a good boop, a little blindside block and a little razzle-dazzle. Hey, it's showtime at the Apollo. Touchdown. But illegal participation now is big number 7. He loses his helmet in a high school game. This is going to be a foul for illegal participation again. Look at this block. Hey, nice high block, shoulder high, head up. Of course, when you don't have a helmet on, you got to have your head up. In that play, it's heads up for illegal participation. Kick catching interference, rule 6.5.6. K commits kick catching interference. Look at this in play pick A. If R can choose an awarded fair catch in this play, and then the 15-yard penalty may be enforced from the spot of the awarded fair catch. Look at diagram B here. Here's the spot of the foul where the X is, and then we add 15 yards. This is a major rule change from last year. Remember, last year we could only take a 15-yard penalty from the previous spot, or an awarded fair catch at the spot of the foul, or you could take the results of the play. Now you can take the awarded fair catch plus an additional 15 yards. This is a great rule change. It punishes the kicking team for kick catch interference. Under the old rule, if we accepted the awarded fair catch, there was absolutely no consequence to the kicking team for their foul. This is a safety rule. It's critically important. So I like this rule change. I think it's very, very good, and we've talked about this in some of the previous videos. There's more on Rule 6.5.6, more on kick-catching interference. If you want to read up on this, check out this rule reference here in the Redding's study guide. We've also got a couple of examples. We want to take a look at some plays involving kick-catch interference. All right, we're going to have a couple of looks at this kickoff play here along the sideline. End up with the kicking team actually in possession of the ball. Don't know that we get a flag on this early, but we get one late, apparently. There's a flag on the ground now. Something I do like to talk about too is try not to put your hands on each other, guys. This radiates insecurity. Officials you don't need to put your hands on each other. Here we got to get a good signal. Now we got a kick catch interference by the kicking team. And now we've got the new options on the penalty enforcement. One more shot from the press box, and the best angle on this is going to be the end zone shot. We'll give you a couple looks at that. You can't really tell what happens because you can't see the ball right there, but you do see the kicking team ends up with the ball. Here's a much better shot at it. Receiver reaches up to catch the ball, and the kicking team basically just runs right underneath the ball and catches it. This by rules, kick catch interference. Got to give them an unmolested opportunity to complete the catch. In high school, we also know the ball's got to go 10 yards and hit the ground before the kicking team can recover it. So anytime the kicking team recovers the ball in flight, you got kick catch interference. Let's take a look at this. This is from a college game in a punt play where we see a few more of these kick catch interference. I don't know, this is another high school game here out of Texas. I got to get a flag on this, and then we're going to have a discussion. And I want you to watch the replay too. You can't hear, but the line judge is telling the referee that this should have been a bean bag and not a flag because the ball actually hits the kicking team member first. So he wants to go with an illegal touch and not a foul. So we're going to wave the little hanky and give a signal for an illegal touch and give the ball to the receiving team. But guess what, folks? This is still kick catch interference because the receiver can't catch the ball because the kicking team member is in the way. He did not give him an unmolested opportunity to complete the catch. Great job seeing that this ball does hit the kicking team first. That could have been a real nightmare. But that is also kick catch interference because you've got to give the receiving team an unmolested opportunity to complete the catch. You've got to stay clear of his path to the ball. Get another look here at a punt play and a kick catch interference. Receiving team member is there. He does not get blocked by the receiving team, the kicking team player there. He actually is just in the way and screws up the receiver's opportunity to catch the ball. So again, another play for another call here. The correct call would have been kick catch interference on the kicking team. Look, that's way too tight. He's in the way. We don't have an unmolested opportunity to complete that catch. That's kick catch interference. K commits kick catching interference here in A, and we've talked about this. Say they can choose enforcement of a 15-yard penalty from the previous spot and replay the down. This is exactly like the old rule, no change in this. Again on 6.5.6, K commits kick catching interference in this mechanical gram A. R may choose to decline the penalty and take the results of the play. If R catches the ball and runs for 35 yards or a touchdown, or even if they run for 16 yards, it's a better option for them to decline the foul and take the results of the play. Be careful with this, communicate with the coaches, but there's no sense in having a big discussion here if it's obvious what they want to do. Let's just enforce the penalty or decline the penalty depending on the results of the play and keep moving. Let's review again now. Kick catching interference penalty. The receiving team has the choice of a 15-yard penalty from the previous spot and replay the down, same as last year. They can take an awarded fair catch after enforcement of a 15-yard penalty from the spot of the foul. That's the new aspect of the rule. K may not touch the ball in flight, touch the receiver, obstruct R's path to the ball, or molest R's opportunity to catch the ball. Now the prohibitions for these acts end when R touches the ball. K is excused from kick catching interference if a receiving team member blocks K into the ball or the receiver. Remember, forced touching is no touching. Let's talk about defensive pass interference 7.5.10. We've made a big change in the penalty. Hey, I don't mind saying this right here. I don't like these rule changes at all. I do like the elimination of the 15-yard penalty and loss of down for A, but I don't like this aspect in B. The committee thought that if we removed the loss of down foul for A when they commit OPI, that it was only fair to eliminate the automatic first down for B. That's a discussion that's, have to have somewhere else because I'm not involved in that. But I don't like this. But let's go over the rule because it's important that we are consistent and we enforce this new rule properly. The automatic first down portion of the penalty for DPI has been removed. When B commits pass interference, the down's replayed and the enforcement is 15 yards from the previous spot. A can still get a first down if they obtain the line to gain following the enforcement of the penalty. Here, offensive pass interference 7.5.10 penalty. The loss down portion of the penalty has been removed. When A commits pass interference, the down's replayed. Enforcement is 15 yards from the previous spot. With the loss of down provision gone, we're probably going to have to do a little better job with the defensive coaches communicating on whether they want to accept this penalty or decline it. Let's talk for a minute about what to look for in OPI. There's also additional rule references here in the Reading Study Guide. Check this out. You want to read up more. Here's great information in the Reading Study Guide on offensive and defensive pass interference. But what we're looking for is blocking downfield, the location of the contact, and the timing of the contact. If there is a significant separation of the contact or it has no effect on the play, be careful with these types of fouls. Just want to be consistent. We want to make sure we're having an effect on the play. Here's some changes in 9.3.8c. No member of the kicking team shall initiate contact to block an opponent until the legal kicks traveled 10 yards, or the kicking team is eligible to recover a free kicked ball. The signal for illegal blocks is just seen here in this insert. So what we want to make sure is that if the kicking team is eligible to touch the ball, then they are also eligible to block. Makes it a little bit simpler to remember the rule change. In this play pick here, because this receiver R1 has contacted or initiated contact with a K player, now all K players can block. So once R blocks, then the restriction or the prohibition against A blocking is gone. Points of emphasis for 2013. This is something that I like to talk about. Points of emphasis for reconditioning and recertification of equipment. Prohibition on contact to and with the helmet, and the free blocking zone enforcement. We've got to be consistent on ruling on blocking below the waist. The key to that, guys, is knowing where your keys are and staying focused and concentrating on areas where you are supposed to be looking. Prohibition on contact to and with the helmet. The defender launches and initiates contact with the top of this helmet. It's a foul for spearing, or it could be illegal personal contact. He leaves his feet in this play pick A, and his contact's right to the face mask, or what we say is just right underneath the chin of this passer. Obviously, this is a foul, guys. We want to get this. This is primarily going to fall on our referees. This is just a matter of focus and concentrating and getting in position where you have the good angle and can see this action. Got a couple of plays that we want to look at here when we talk about leaving the feet, launching, leading with the helmet. We don't have a great angle on this play because of the camera, but notice the head is down, comes in down, boom, right at the chest. Looks like he butt blocks him right there with the crown of the helmet right in the chest. Like I said, not a great angle on this, but he doesn't leave his feet, but he does lunge, and he's from that crouch position. His shoulders drop, his head drops. Here's another. That's on the quarterback. We'll get a couple of good looks at this from the end zone. Take the little defender rushing on the right side there. Bam! Right in the crown of the helmet, right to the face mask of the quarterback. Referees, you got to be in position to see this. Boom! See that head jar back? It's nasty. Ugh. Those are ones we got to get, referees. Coming in high on that quarterback. It's just a nasty play right there. Definitely a foul. This is a receiver down the field here, and the defender launches. You can see he leaves his feet, lowers his head. His target's too high. He comes up high at the shoulders or above. See the head go back on the defender. On the offensive player there. Look, leaves his feet. Boom, head down, launch. That's just a nasty play. What we got to do, we've got to teach these kids to lower their targets, hit this kid below the shoulders, and we won't have these types of dangerous play. This is a foul, guys. We want this called 15-yard penalty. Let's go back to our slide that we had up just a moment ago. We were talking about fouls on the defense, but we got to talk about fouls on the offense as well. In B, the rule applies equally to A and to B. If the runner initiates contact with the top of his helmet, it's a foul for spearing. Be very careful with these guys. Make sure that you're focused and concentrating on the area of impact. If he leads with his shoulder and then there's subsequent contact with the helmet, that would not be a foul for spearing. Butt blocking, face blocking, and spearing, these are all things that we've talked about year after year, and these are all continue to be points of emphasis. These are fouls, guys. The free blocking zone and consistent enforcement of blocking below the waist. The free blocking zone is just this 6 by 8 yard box that surrounds the ball. Blocking below the waist, play pick A, and clipping are only legal when the free blocking zone is in effect. Both players in the zone at the snap, contacts in the zone for blocking below the waist and for clipping. Both players were on the line of scrimmage at the snap. For blocks in the back, only the offensive player has to be on the line of scrimmage at the snap, but this contact becomes illegal when the ball has left the free blocking zone. Blocking below the waist is legal. Both players lined up in the free blocking zone at the snap and on the line of scrimmage. The free blocking zone is defined by this 3 yards either side of the line of scrimmage and 4 yards either side of the ball. Contact and the block have to occur in the free blocking zone, and the ball has to be in the free blocking zone. So we've got to do a good job of focusing, concentrating, and be familiar with these terms and be familiar with where this zone is. Free blocking zone enforcement, consistent of the enforcement and blocking below the waist. Here's a case where the defender, the lead blockers, were not on the line of scrimmage at the snap, and they're cut by the defenders. Look at this lead blocker. His number's 33. We're going to say this is probably one of the backs, and the quarterback here, number 10, is running the ball. And the defender cuts this player who is not on the line of scrimmage. This is a sweep or on a roll-out pass. This is a violation of the rule on blocking below the waist if it occurs by a player who's originally not on the line of scrimmage. And it probably is going to also occur outside the free blocking zone. So don't get wrapped up in thinking that blocking below the waist just occurs by offensive players. It could be by a defender. We'll also see times on rollout plays where this will be not even a defensive lineman. This may be a cornerback or a defensive back, and a big lineman's coming at him, and they're beyond the line of scrimmage or they're outside this free blocking zone because they're more than 3 yards from the original position of the ball. And this cornerback doesn't have any shot of challenging this block by this big lineman, so he just cuts him. That's an illegal block below the waist. It's on the defense, but it's outside the zone. We want to get those. So think about this rule. Concentrate, focus, be cognizant that this could occur by any player once the ball has left the zone or the zone has disintegrated. A couple more things, I'm going to cut you guys loose. Play cards must be worn on the wrist or the arm. They cannot be worn on the belt. As you can see, this player in the picture here has the card on his belt. That's illegal. Hey, guys, get to the stadium, be dressed in time to get out on the field while the teams are still warming up. Look for these types of things. We don't want to stop the game or delay the game or pull people out of the game because they're wearing illegal equipment that they wore before the game started. So make good use of that time while the teams are warming up. Injured players who are bleeding, have open wounds or blood on the uniform, or they exhibit signs and symptoms of a concussion with headaches or dizziness or walking around like they don't know where they are. We got to get these players out of the game. Players who are bleeding, once the bleeding stops, the uniform's cleaned up, the skin's cleaned up, they can come back into the game or they can change uniforms. In concussion situations, the player shall not return to the game until he's been cleared by the appropriate healthcare professionals. Not our job to decide who the appropriate healthcare professionals are. We can't critique or should not be involved in evaluating their qualifications. If the coach says they've been diagnosed or they have been examined by the appropriate healthcare professional, they're ready to go, then they're ready to go after they sit for one play. The illegal horse collar tackle, 9.4.3K. We cleaned this rule up a couple of years ago, but no player, non-player grab the inside back or collar of the shoulder pads or jersey of the runner and subsequently pull him backward or sideways to the ground. This is a horse collar foul, and it's enforced as a live ball foul, even if it occurs in dead ball action. For example, the ball carrier runs out of bounds. As soon as he goes out of bounds, we have a dead ball. Subsequently, a defender grabs the inside collar of the shoulder pads or the collar and pulls the runner backward or sideways to the ground. We've got a horse collar tackle, a dead ball horse collar tackle. It's enforced as a live ball foul. So we would just tack that on to the end of the run. It would be a 15-yard penalty. Thanks for sticking it out with me today, guys. We did cover a lot of material. I appreciate your time, your focus on the rules, your concentration on the field, your professionalism, doing the best you can do before the season starts to have a great year. Study the rules, study the mechanics, get yourself in shape, go out there and hustle, and do a great job. Until next time, Todd Allen for the High School Football Officials Association saying thanks for tuning in.